Hey, what's up? It's Ben Greenfield. I had a strange man enter my home a few weeks ago. His name is Brian Hoyer. He's a building biologist, and he did a building biological analysis of my home. I had a microphone. I walked around with him. I recorded the whole thing. This is a little bit unorthodox when it comes to the way I typically conduct a podcast, but it was very interesting. And don't worry, no video is required. I kind of imagined that you, the listener, were blind and couldn't see while I was recording everything that this guy did. And I was trying to do a good job describing it to you. He had all sorts of gadgets and this amazing body of knowledge when it comes to dirty electricity and electrical pollution and geothermal stressors. And after he did the whole analysis, I kind of did a part two with him. I didn't kind of do it. I did it. I got him on Skype, and we did a follow-up where he took a deep dive into what he found and what I and you can do to fix some of the biological assailants that exist in our home. So this one ought to be a doozy. It's kind of long. So a couple of other things. First of all, you should know, if you haven't heard yet, that I just launched Keon U, as in Keon University. So my goal here was to address a big problem with a lot of certification programs out there that certify health coaches and physicians and nutritionists and personal trainers, but that don't really cover everything, the broad spectrum of mind, brain, neurotransmitters, HPA, axis, cognitive performance, exercise, fitness, strength, power, speed, balance, mobility, and even the spiritual aspects of happiness and gratitude and love. So I decided to create an all-inclusive university that is basically a collection of everything that I've amassed in terms of knowledge for the past couple of decades. So I've spent, it's been like almost 2 years that we've been putting this course together. I've worked with a whole bunch of professionals who really know how to create a solid educational program, and we've created this world-class coaching certification program for health professionals. So if you're a personal trainer, nutritionist, physician, chiropractic doc, physical therapist, anybody who wants to learn everything there is to know about how to optimize the human machine and to run a successful health and fitness and nutrition business while doing so. That's what Keon U is designed for. That's who Keon U is designed for. So if you want to learn more about it and you want to learn directly from me, it's very simple. You go to getkeon.com/coach. getkeon.com/coach. And that will fill you in on everything that you need to know to become one of the very small number of folks who are letting into the first graduating class of Keon University. This podcast is also brought to you by the Christian Gratitude Journal. What is the Christian Gratitude Journal? Well, for years, I did morning gratitude practice in which I would write down what I was grateful for, and I would write down my daily affirmation, right? Me, I am good, I'm great, I'm wonderful, and gosh darn it, people like me. However, about 2 years ago, I started to make my daily practice more others-facing, meaning I write down what I'm grateful for, but then I also write down a truth that I've discovered that day. And that means that for me, because I always start off the day reading something spiritual or devotional or woo-woo, as many people call it, if I read with intention and I know that afterwards I'm going to be writing down one truth that I discovered, I read with a lot more intention rather than just like squinting through my eye boogers. The third thing that I write down is who can I pray for or help or serve that day. So my entire day becomes others-facing. I'm more empathetic. I go out of my way to help someone 365 days a year, and my children do this along with me. My wife does it. We gather around the dinner table. We share our gratitude journals and what we wrote, and I now have printed this journal and made it available to anybody else who wants to do the same. You can get it at christiangratitude.com. You don't have to be a Christian to use it. I call it the Christian Gratitude Journal, though, because it has like Bible verses at the top of each page that you can read, some inspirational passages, things like that. So it's the Christian Gratitude Journal. You get it at christiangratitude.com. Finally, I should let you know that the big retreat in Switzerland that I'm putting on next summer, 2019, it's halfway full. It's halfway full. So half the rooms are sold out. We are going to do this at the beautiful Paracelsus Clinic in the Italian quarter of Switzerland. It's a complete detox retreat. We're going to be engaging in some of the most advanced forms of European medicine you can get. We'll be doing liver hyperthermia, dark field live blood analysis, colon hydrotherapy, nutrient IV infusions, acupuncture, full body massages, autonomic nervous system analyses. It's pretty much like the Cadillac of detox retreats. I'm going to be there, and I'm bringing in a few other health professionals. It's a 2-week stay that you're at this retreat for a complete full body reset, doing a lot of things that we can't do over here in the U.S., and you'll be in the Swiss Alps. We'll literally be just like hiking in Italy and having amazing workouts together and detoxing our entire bodies. You'll come back feeling like a new person. So to get in on that, you might want to write this down. It's not a short URL. It's greensmoothiegirl.com, because I've partnered up with my friend Robin Openshaw on this, who's known as the Green Smoothie Girl. greensmoothiegirl.com/Ben Greenfield. That's greensmoothiegirl.com/Ben Greenfield. All right, let's go meet with this building biologist.
He's an expert in human performance and nutrition. Voted America's top personal trainer and one of the globe's most influential people in health and fitness. His show provides you with everything you need to optimize physical and mental performance. He is Ben Greenfield.
Power, speed, mobility, balance. Whatever it is for you, that's the natural movement. Get out there. When you look at all the studies done, studies that have shown the greatest efficacy.
All the information you need in one place, right here, right now, on the Ben Greenfield Fitness Podcast.
All right, well, this is a pretty exciting day because a gentleman named Brian Hoyer just pulled up in my driveway with 3 giant briefcases full of crazy-looking electronic equipment, and he is going to audit, analyze, and tear to pieces the entire Greenfield compound and find out whether it really is a stupid home, as I've claimed that it is, as opposed to a smart home chock full of dirty electricity and electrical pollution. And we're also going to see what a lot of these crazy devices that you guys hear me talking about in podcasts actually do when it comes to the amount of dirty electricity that they produce, meaning everything from the infrared sauna to the pulsed electromagnetic field table to the cluster of wires underneath my standing desk to all of these things that may have a biological effect. So, Brian, you pretty stoked to tear this thing apart?
Yeah, I'm excited. You know, we got all the equipment here, and we're ready to go.
Now, Brian, when it comes to what you're about to do, is this like something you've been doing since you were 10 years old, walking around with a microscope in your parents' house, or how'd you actually get into all this?
No, I was actually a nutritional therapy practitioner, and I was working with my clients on nutrition and doing all these nutritional protocols for them. And then I took some training with Dr. Klinghardt and realized how bad the EMF situation is and how important that is to healing.
Dietrich Klinghardt?
Yes.
He's considered to be kind of like one of the godfathers of this whole kind of what would you call this movement? I know some have referred to it as like the quantum health movement, some the electronic invisible movement, some the woo-woo movement. I mean, what do you actually call this?
Well, I kind of see it as piggybacking off the whole ancestral movement, really, because for our health, our nutrition, our lifestyle, we're always trying to get back to the way of our ancestors. But what we've missed the last decade or so with the ancestral health movement is that we also have to get back to the environment of our ancestors. And these electronics definitely weren't something that our ancestors were exposed to.
Yeah, so essentially, and this is what I've kind of described on the podcast, we're trying to hack our modern post-industrial environment to better simulate what our ancestors would have experienced, even if we're not out gardening and gathering and hunting and having the privilege to be outside all day. We can at least try and adjust our internal environment so that they're as close to that as possible.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, it's kind of one of those things where you have all these modern stressors that we never were exposed to before. And if we reduce those, then we kind of wake up these dormant healing responses that are within us, and it's this ancestral healing response that happens once we remove those modern stressors.
Where'd you learn how to do this?
I learned from Geovital Academy. They're a naturopathic clinic over in Austria. They've been doing this for about 35 years, since the early 80s. And they just have all this clinical experience from their experience with over 200,000 patients over the years and protocols that they've put in place. And what they found was that, their patients, they stopped getting better once they started introducing all this wireless, technology. And then once they started coming up with solutions for this, and they built a protocol for the bedroom, the same protocols that they used to use started working again.
So you've got a lot of equipment. Can you walk me through just the basic, and I realize a lot of this stuff people aren't going to rush out to buy. It's not stuff you can find on Amazon, but what's the basic equipment you're going to be using as we go through this today, and as you're spitting out values to people, and as they're hearing exactly what kind of electricity my own home is producing? Yeah,
well, the thing is that a lot of people need to understand is that there's different types of meters for different types of electromagnetic radiation. There's a lot of companies out there that claim to have one solution to all your EMF problems. It doesn't really work like that. That's not the way that physics works. So there has to be a different meter for each type of electromagnetic frequency that we're trying to detect. So I have basically 3 different things that I'm detecting here today, 4 if you count dirty electricity. We have a Goss Meter, and I have the Gigahertz Solutions NFA 30M, and it's a triple axis Goss meter.
I'm going to slow you down a little bit. It's a Gigahertz Solutions, made in Germany, NFA 30M. It's this big yellow thing.
Right. And so this is measuring magnetic fields, and this comes from overhead power lines, and it comes from, if there's a wiring error in the home, you can have magnetic fields. If you're on city water, then there can be magnetic fields on your pipes. And then also anything that has a motor in it or current flowing through it has a magnetic field. So that's 1 meter.
Okay, so that's what that's measuring. By the way, I grew up in Lewiston, Idaho, and my parents built a home, and they built the home underneath high voltage power lines. My brothers and I were able to walk around the house and touch each other and shock each other by touching each other because of the amount of voltage that was over our house, and that was the environment that I grew up in. I'm hoping this isn't that bad.
Yeah, I don't see any power lines around here, and so far on our meter, we've got it kind of going right now. It looks like they're pretty good levels here right on the property.
All right, so promising so far, although right now we're standing out on my front porch. We'll see what happens when we get into the office with all the crazy photobiomodulation and electrical devices and so-called biohacks. Okay, so we've got the NFA 30M, and the exact type of electricity that's measuring once again is?
It's the magnetic portion of the, there's electromagnetic, so it's measuring just the magnetic part.
Magnetic part. Okay, got it. And then you've got 3 devices basically. What's the second device?
Second device is the HF digit meter by Geovital. It's their HF field probe, and this actually measures the body for radio frequency radiation.
Oh, this measures people.
Yes.
Interesting.
And so it's just as if, when you were a kid, you had the little bunny ears on your TV antenna. And your reception gets better when you hold it, and then you kind of change the way that your body's shaped so that the reception is better. So that's basically kind of the way that this meter works. It treats your body as an antenna, and it shows what you're being exposed to from all the wireless radiation from the cell phone towers, radio towers, television towers, everything.
Interesting. So let me ask you this about that meter. Is it true that when your cell phone has 1 bar and you hold it and your coverage gets better, it's because it's using your body as an antenna? Someone once told me that, and I wasn't sure if it was true, but I'm wondering if you've measured that before with a device like this.
I haven't measured that in particular, but I could see how that would happen, from the type of measurements that I've taken with people before.
Have you ever, for example, placed the measurement device on your fingertip with your phone in airplane mode and then made a phone call to see what would happen while holding your phone?
It's insane what happens.
It goes up?
Yeah, we can do that later.
Okay. That's kind of what I figured it would go up. So it is using your body as an antenna, or at least increasing the voltage that your body is exposed to significantly.
Yeah, and your body's constantly an antenna because it's conductive, So there's all kinds of things that we'll see with this meter. We'll walk around and see if there's any hot spots in the house where there's different, they have directional antennas that kind of point toward, that kind of beam in toward a certain area of the house sometimes, and you'll see it higher in one area of the house than other areas. And then this also measures the wireless signals coming from inside the house, but it's not quite as accurate in measuring those, so I use this other meter.
So this one that we just got done with, this is the Geovital HF digit meter, the probe. It's actually a little bit intimidating. It doesn't actually actually has a probe coming out of it. So it's like an alien probe. Okay, so this third device. What is this third device?
This third device kind of breaks down the wireless that you're being exposed to, and so it has different categories, listed on here, and it tells you basically that there's CDMA, GSM 900, GSM 18, 1900, 3G DECT, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, WiMAX, and it tells you like what type of frequency that we're currently being exposed to. So I can take this around. It's actually meant to detect like bugs and tracers. I got it from a spy website.
Oh, so we're going to find out whether the Russians are bugging the home.
Yeah, or
okay,
the U.S. government.
Good, good. By the way, I realize I just totally stereotyped. I love you, all my Russian listeners. I just, I don't know about Putin. Putin, if you're listening in, we're going to find out if you got bugs in the Greenfield home. Okay, so this one is called what?
This one is called the Protect 1207i.
Protect 1207i. I'm going to take a photograph of each of these, and I'll put these photographs in the show notes for you guys. So that you can see what they actually look like. But one's kind of the size of a very, very old school telephone, this NFA 30M. The digit meter is a little bit smaller than that. And then this other one that we just talked about, the Russian spy device, this is about the size of a cell phone.
Right.
So the move here is we go through the house with each of these and analyze the areas that we want to analyze. And what do we do with the one that measures the body?
I usually take that one and we measure all the common areas. Same thing with the magnetic field reader, and we kind of do that at the same time. And then we'll take measurements in the bedroom, because the bedroom is really where we want to focus in on, because that's when your body is resting and repairing and rejuvenating. Your lymphatic system in your brain is detoxing, and then all the lymphatic system throughout all your organs is detoxing at night, according to that. I think it's according to that Chinese clock, really, and it has all
circadian
the lymphatics.
Biology. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for those of you who want more than just Eastern woo-woo Chinese clock advice, Dr. Sachin Panda, right? I mean, he's got some really compelling research on this that shows that it's not just Eastern mysticism when you wake up at night, right, and you've got like your liver clock and your pineal clock and your melatonin clock. It's interesting research on his site. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. Dr. Sachin Panda is a great resource for this circadian biology stuff. Just a couple other questions before we begin. I have solar panels on my roof, and I've been informed that the inversion that takes place, or the conversion, I suppose it would be, of, I think it is the AC to DC, although
it would be DC to AC.
Or DC to AC, as the energy travels from the solar panels up here down through the conduit into the garage, that can create a lot of dirty electricity. So are we going to be able to look at that with these devices?
Yeah, we'll look at it. There's actually another device that I'll use for that. And I kind of have a different philosophy on that than a lot of other building biologists that are out there that are trained through another organization. Because I see it, there's a lot of talk about dirty electricity, and the dirty electricity is bad. It's detrimental for your health. There's no question about that. But so is normal clean electricity, because we're not supposed to be exposed to that anyway. So what I say is, instead of worrying about filtering it so much, why don't we just block the electric fields from reaching the body altogether? That's the most optimal way to.
Is that the Faraday cage suit that you're wearing right now?
It's a Faraday cage grounded suit.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm not really wearing a suit, but
although our mutual friend Dr. Mercola, I believe, and my apologies to him if he's listening, and I'm in error. I think that he has a Faraday, like a sleeping cage or a sleeping chamber or sleeping bag or something like that actually protects his body while he's asleep.
Yeah, he actually just got done shielding his room and so he has both a canopy and I think he has a sleeping bag that he
And
takes with
what
him
you
when he
wouldn't
travels.
want to do in a room like that would be to make phone calls, though, right? Because you're essentially bouncing the signal back at yourself.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't want to, because whenever you make a phone call in an area where you're roaming or your signal is worse, your phone pushes out more power, and so it's actually even worse for you than if you're right next to a tower.
So the worst thing on the planet is when the airplane is landing and everybody, even though they're not supposed to, switches their cell phone on when there's about 1 bar and you're, 8,000 feet up, to check their cell phones with the weak bar signal inside this giant metal tube.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though I will admit that I have done that, possibly. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap a photo of each of these devices for you guys. I'll put them in the show notes, and we're going to start, I figure we could just go toe to head, start downstairs and work our way up through the house.
Sounds good.
Okay, here we go. So we're inside now, and Brian just unveiled a fourth device. It's also a Geovital device, but what is this one?
This one's the NF Digit Meter EM field probe, so it actually measures electric fields and magnetic fields.
Now, the other one was called an HF field probe. This one's called an NFEM field probe. What's the difference?
So the HF stands for high frequency. The NF or LF is low frequency. So it's measuring electric and magnetic fields. That's why it's EM, electric and magnetic.
Okay.
So it has a little antenna that you can stick in here that measures the electric fields. There's another one that I don't have with me that you can put in there to measure the magnetic fields, just like the NFA 30M measures that. But I like this NFA 30M better for the magnetic fields because I don't have to do any math to calculate the triple axis thing. There's a bunch of science to that.
Yeah, I'm pretty good at triple axis math, so if you need it, let me know. Okay, cool. So again, I'll put all this information and the photographs of each of these in the show notes, which are going to be over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. That's bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. All right, so is it time to go measure?
Yep.
Okay.
Let's do this.
All right, so we've wandered down to the basement, and by the way, as we were coming downstairs to the gym where we're going to start the measurements, Brian informed me that we mentioned Dr. Mercola has the Faraday system set up in his bedroom, but it's actual paint. It's a shielding paint.
Yeah.
And what's the name of that paint if people wanted to use something like that in their homes?
Yeah, the one that I recommended for him was the T98 Alpha paint by Geovital. And it's the highest attenuating, non-toxic shielding paint that's on the market right now.
Okay, awesome. I'll hunt that down for those of you who didn't rapidly write down T98, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and put that over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. Okay, so where do we start? We're standing here in my gym. We've got a sauna. We've got medicine balls, which I don't think produce electricity. Last time I checked. We've got a Peak Fit Pro, which is like a force plate. And that one does plug into the wall because it has like a Bluetooth signal that talks to the phone while you're working out to tell you how much force you're producing. So where do we start?
Okay, well, we're just going to use the magnetic field meter and just kind of go around here and see if there's any wiring errors. So if there's anything, we kind of go closer to the wall and see if there's anything that goes up higher. Then actually I want to measure this in nanotesla. Because we're looking for...
So you're just holding it up against the wall right now.
Yes. And there's nothing that's screaming that there's a big issue here. Now, if we turn on the sauna, with this, we'll see this go up.
Okay.
Would be my guess.
Okay. So I would imagine if we turn on anything, we'll see it go up. But what we're looking for are concerning values, or values that are at a certain threshold.
Right. The concerning values that we would see here for the magnetic fields would be 50 nanotesla or 0.5 milligauss or higher.
0.5 milligauss or higher is what we would want to be careful with.
Right. And then
Okay.
in the sleeping area, you want it to actually be lower than that, like 0.3 or 30 nanotesla.
Okay, so 0.5 general areas of the house where you're spending a third of your life falling asleep trying to engage in lymphatic drainage and repair of the nervous system, 0.3 or lower for milligauss.
Yeah.
Okay, so want to step into the sauna with me and we'll measure that first?
Sure.
Okay, so we're going to step into the sauna, you guys. I'm going to step over the battle rope, try and open the door here. My gym is a somewhat cluttered gym, but it's well used. Okay, I just hit power in the sauna. Okay, sauna's on. We're standing inside my sauna right now, and I'm snapping plenty of photos for you guys as we go, so you can kind of see what we're doing here. So what Brian is doing is he's holding this is the NFA 30M, which is measuring milligauss, and he's kind of going around each corner of my sauna. And this is a low EMF sauna, meaning that I believe Clear Light, Sunlight, and I think is one other company, they do what are supposed to be saunas that don't microwave your body or that have lower EMF. Now I'm watching these numbers jump around as you're going, Brian. We got 0.4, 0.3,
Yeah, we're just looking.
so 0.6.
Basically, when I stay still, that's what we want to.
Okay.
Be.
So it's kind of like on the edge. It's close to 0.5.
Yeah. I mean, these are good numbers. I mean, this is kind of a larger sauna. A lot of the smaller saunas, you're actually up closer to the heaters. You know, so if you're going to get a larger model, I think that might actually help. I mean, if I go right up against...
Right, good, because this is such a big sauna, I'm not like scrunched up against the walls when I'm in it. And what I'm noticing as you're walking around my sauna, the closer you're getting to the heaters and the closer you're getting to the walls, the higher the values become. But you're getting pretty close before those values get super high.
Yes.
With the highest ones being right next to the actual heaters themselves.
Right. Yeah, so I'm about like, what, 1.5 feet away here. And it's up nearly at 1.
It's actually, it's close to 1. We want to be 0.5 or lower.
Yeah. And so where your body is, that's what matters with the magnetic fields.
Yes. So when I'm in my sauna, I would want to ensure that I'm keeping if I can, like a couple feet from those heaters.
Yeah. That would be ideal.
Now, what about if someone were at the gym in, say, just like a dry sauna? Would the main goal be to steer clear of the coils with the rocks on them? Have you measured that before?
I haven't measured that in a health spa or anything like that, but I've measured probably 20 or so saunas last year.
All infrared or
different types.
Okay.
Everyone has a different type.
What do those dry saunas run at?
The far infrared, it's different for everyone. Some people just get off-brand ones that don't claim to be low EMF. Those ones are typically really high. The low EMF ones are better, but even some of the ones that I've measured that are low EMF are not adequate in my opinion.
Interesting. Hold that probe back up to these heaters. I want to shoot a quick video of the numbers that we're seeing generated. Okay, so 1.4 as you get close to the heaters. Interesting. And then come away from the heaters, like closer to where I'd be kind of, and then we drop to, okay. Yeah, so it's a little bit more acceptable away from the heaters, but we know that you are getting some milligauss, as we would expect when you step into a sauna, and it looks to me like kind of the takeaway message would be try not to get too close to the heaters and to the very, very edges of the walls.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And this is pretty much background. This isn't anything special. If the sauna wasn't here and we were just standing in this room, I think this is about what it would be.
Okay, so this is acceptable, assuming I'm not making out with the heater.
Right.
Okay, cool. Now, in addition to measuring the milligauss, we're also going to use this digit meter, which is the one that measures our actual bodies.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically we want to, in order, detoxification is a parasympathetic process. So we want to get in as deep of a parasympathetic process as possible while we're inside of the sauna. So you want to measure pretty much everything.
So this would be like a measurement of the body's stress while we're in the sauna.
Yeah. Now this is going to vary because the sauna itself is not producing high frequency.
Right.
Unless you have Bluetooth enabled or there's some fancy thing like that.
No. Well, in this particular sauna, I've disabled the Wi-Fi. The Bluetooth is off. What's that? It's picking up a radio?
Yep.
You hear that? Wait, it's using your body as an antenna to pick up the radio.
Yes.
So Brian's holding the probe, and it's literally using your body as an antenna.
Yeah.
Does that worry you?
That worries me. Yeah.
Okay. Now, is that only because you're holding that device? Or is this sauna actually picking up a radio signal? Like, why is it doing that?
It's because it's using my body as an antenna for the radio station.
Okay.
And so when you're using this meter, you have to kind of orient it in a different direction. Right now, I'm holding the meter upside down. I've kind of got it over my head. And so your body is actually being exposed to that where I'm standing right now. So if I walk around.
So as we walk around the freaking planet in our homes and everything, radio signals bouncing around from radio tower to radio tower are going through us and using our bodies as an antenna.
Yeah.
Is that dangerous?
There's a lot of studies that show that there's different biological effects that happen with these types of exposures, chronic exposures and everything. And so when we're doing this, it's my goal is always to get back to the environment of our ancestors. And when we have these kind of frequencies out here like this, it's definitely not something that our ancestors were exposed to.
We're out in the middle of the forest and we're getting hit with radio signals. Pardon the expression, but what the f***? You know what, though? At least we don't have measles and polio. I mean, there's a trade-off, right? But this is concerning to me. I'm sitting in my sauna right now, which I just found out has a relatively low milligauss, so as long as I'm not near the heaters. But I've still got radio frequencies out here in the middle of the forest coming through my head while I'm sitting in the sauna.
Yeah.
You see that? These are going straight through Brian's body right now. That's nuts. We could sit in here and jam, man.
Yeah.
Wow. If I go and put you next to my TV and have you hold that, will we get cable?
I wish.
Free?
Free cable?
Wow.
No,
okay,
yeah.
so as far as practical action, what is this telling us aside from the fact that there's freaking radio signals out in the middle of nowhere?
Well, basically
what
it's telling us is that the placement of your sauna, of your healing equipment, any healing device that you have is vitally important to getting into that whole parasympathetic state. Because usually any type of health product, that's kind of what you want to get into, unless it's some kind of exercise thing or it's stimulating you some different way, stimulating the sympathetic side of the nervous system. But most things like detox, regeneration, all those sorts of metabolic processes that you're trying to activate are parasympathetic processes, where your body's like not supposed to be stressed out. You're not supposed to be in the sympathetic fight or flight response. You're supposed to be in a response of your body where your nervous system is relaxed and it's okay for the innate intelligence to heal.
So what you're saying is, in an ideal scenario, I would use that device that you were just holding up. I would go through, I would find a place where there wasn't radio signals, and I would put the most relaxing, restorative, sanctuary, meditation, parasympathetic activating part of my routine in that cleanest area.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you have this sauna, every single person's situation is going to be different. And so if you have the sauna in the middle of New York City, these levels will probably be off the chart.
Yeah.
I've taken measurements over there and it goes above 10,000.
So it's all relative.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting. Mm-hmm. I still find this fascinating that I'm getting radio signals through my body inside my sauna. This is nuts. And it's not the sauna's fault. This is actual radio towers.
Yeah.
It's just my sauna's placement in this particular area of planet Earth.
Right.
Wow. Dude, I'm such a dummy. So there's one more thing that we're going to measure in the sauna before we venture into my office, and that is the actual electric fields being generated. So this is different than the radio fields or the milligauss. What is this that we're measuring now, Brian?
This is actually voltage. So we want to measure voltage on the body when we're in the sauna, because if you think about the way electricity impacts the body, we have electrodes that you put on your muscles and sends voltage into your muscles. It causes contraction. The way that we restart hearts is we have the defibrillator and you shock someone's heart back into rhythm. The heart is a muscle, and so it has a strong contraction, and that restarts the heart. So when we're trying to be in this parasympathetic state, this healing state, and we have all this voltage around us constantly contracting our muscles, that will raise your cortisol and take you out of that parasympathetic state.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we go back in the sauna and we measure the actual muscle contractions being generated.
Yeah, we'll measure the actual body voltage.
Okay, so you're gonna attach this to yourself or to me and measure that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going back in the sauna. Do I flip the sauna on?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna flip the sauna back on. Okay, here we go. Flipping the sauna back on. All right. Now you're holding this wire, and this is the Geovital. This is the other Geovital. The what's this one called? The NFEM. The
NF
NFE.
digit meter EM
The
field
NF
probe.
digit meter EM field probe. Okay, so what are we finding from this one?
So we're just going to measure the walls.
He's holding it up to each wall here in the sauna. And what kind of numbers are you looking for, Brian?
Well, we want 0 on all the walls.
Okay. Like 0, 0. Oh, whoa. Go through the roof right there. What's that indicate?
There's a higher
it's
voltage there.
Okay. So different places where it's wired through the roof. You got high voltage. Interesting.
Okay. Then the real kicker that we want to do is measure your body. So if you just
Okay.
stick your arm out there, Ben.
Okay. Sticking my arm out. It's through the roof. My body's through the roof. What if we took me out of the sauna and measured this? Or what if I flip the sauna off and you measure that?
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay, so I'm going to push power. Now, what we're seeing values at there?
We're seeing at 400.
400-ish. Voltmeters? Is that the VM?
Volts per meter.
Okay, sauna's off. Same thing. It's even higher now.
Yeah.
What's that mean? I'm just like a electrical machine here?
That requires more investigation here.
Very interesting. I'm producing a ton. No, I'm holding the phone, but the phone is in airplane mode. I'm just using it for photos. What if I put the phone down? Now try it.
Same.
Still pretty high. Okay. And what if I put the other phone down that I'm recording this on? And set this phone that I'm recording on the ground. Okay, now go. Still through the roof.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what's that mean, that my body is producing that much energy?
Just means what's going on here is the voltage actually went down in the walls when you turn the sauna on.
That's kind of cool. So the sauna has the ability to be able to decrease the voltage in the walls when turned on. But my body's voltage is through the roof. I think that just means that I'm superhuman. I think I'm just producing a lot of voltage. But have you met? Yeah, when you measure yourself, same thing though.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So do you have any hypothesis as to why that would be?
Well, I need to double check the grounding here
Okay.
in the where I'm grounded at, where I have the meter grounded.
Okay.
And then it also could be that there's voltage, because I know this clear light sauna does have shielded conduit in it. There could be some kind of phenomena where when you have actual voltage going through that shielded conduit back to the ground, but basically that's what shielded conduit is it's a grounded conduit. Like,
What if we step outside of the sauna and do this?
let's do it.
Okay, here we go. So we're going to step outside of the sauna now onto just the regular rubber flooring of my gym. Okay. Still kind of high, but like a lot lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I know what it is now.
What is it?
What's going on is when we're in the sauna, the shielded conduit is activated. And so, well, you know what? I don't know.
All right, we're going to figure this out. We'll dig into it and report back to you guys. Careful of that heater, by the way. It's hot. I have the cover off of it. You don't want to burn yourself. All right, cool. So what we're going to do next, now that we've measured the voltmeters here in the gym, is we're going to see what's going on in the office. So we figured out that when the sauna is turned on, that the voltage is rushing in towards the sauna, and that's why we're actually seeing this high amount of voltage when we're inside the sauna.
Yeah, so when I put the meter on the wall, it's about 430 volts per meter on this EM field probe. And then when you turn on the sauna, it goes down to about 120. So what's happening, I believe, is that there's voltage that's going right to the sauna from the the circuit breaker that it's on, and it's putting all of its juice toward the sauna, and then a lot of that is being basically routed that direction instead of going through the walls like it normally would, because the voltage, it's always flowing when the circuit breaker is on. And so the wall is always charged.
In the room that my sauna is in, the best thing to do about that would be to use something like this Faraday paint on the wall.
Yeah, the T98.
Interesting. So I could just paint my gym or whichever area in the house that someone's sauna is in, you'd paint that with the Faraday cage paint, and then just make sure that room is not a room you're making a lot of phone calls or something like that in.
Right.
Interesting. This is fascinating. Okay, I got to go buy me some paint now. Get out my painter's cap and my brush. Is it pretty easy to put on, this paint?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, cool. And what's the paint called again?
T98 Alpha.
T98 Alpha. I love it. Sounds pretty macho. All right. Shall we do the office?
Yep. Let's go to the office.
Okay, so we're now in my office where I podcast. I'll put a photo over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/building biology of all the different wires and things. Granted, I've got everything plugged into dirty electricity filters. I have a so-called low EMF Belkin power strip, but we've got a lot of stuff in here. We've got like Juve lights. We've got a mixer for the podcast. There's about 20 wires coming out of the wall. So we're going to find out what's going on when I'm working during the day. And this is very interesting to me because this is a place where I spend a lot of my life, is here at the desk. So let's see what we got. What are we going to measure first, Brian?
Well, we'll just measure the ambient radio frequencies coming in. The same thing that when we were hearing that radio station. So we'll see if we can pick up that same frequency here in your office.
Doesn't seem to be picking much up. Yeah, that's about where I stand while I'm working.
Okay, so we've got quite a bit there.
But it's not picking up a radio station. It's just a high voltmeter.
Yeah,
No, this one's milligauss.
No, this one is microvolts.
Okay, microvolts.
So it's over 400, and then we got the radio station.
And I got the radio. So right smack dab where I'm working during the day, you're picking up a radio station, and you have a high amount of voltage.
Yeah, and so this is a combination of, it's picking up anything from essentially 0 to 8 gigahertz.
Uh-huh.
And so, I looked on here I looked on a website before I came over to your house, and you're actually surrounded by about 3 or 4 towers that are broadcasting a 3.65 gigahertz cell phone signal.
Oh, wow.
And then there's one about 3 miles away from the same company that's got about 27 signals on one antenna, and they range from 11 gigahertz to 17 gigahertz.
Wow. Is that a lot?
That's a lot. Yeah.
Okay. So out here in the middle of nowhere, I'm kind of in this cluster of radio towers.
Yeah, and the big one that has that 27 signals of 11 to 17 gigahertz those are more than likely directional antennas. But my concern is because you're surrounded by 3 or 4 of these other 3.6 gigahertz antennas, is that they're communicating with that other tower by the same company.
So besides moving to Nepal, what can you do about that?
That's where that shielding paint comes in handy.
But if I put shielding paint in my office, then I can't make phone calls from my office, right?
Well, all you'd need to do is keep the window open.
Okay. Which could work, aside from when it gets to like -3 out here, and I'm spending a lot of money on heat.
Having the window.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if I make my phone calls near the window and I don't paint the window, that would be the trick for the office. Oh, well, that's doable.
Yeah, and for the windows, we typically use this fabric called the Nova fabric, and it shields really well up to 8 gigahertz.
And can that fabric be rolled up for when you would make a phone call, for example?
Yeah. You just put it in there like a curtain. It's like a sheer white.
It's like
fabric.
wrapping your whole home in tinfoil, basically.
Except it looks beautiful.
Wow. So what'll happen? So in terms of things that I would have on while I'm working, What about if I turn on, for example, these two Juve lights, the one in front of me and the one behind me while I'm at the office? Would you measure that with a digit meter or something else?
We'd measure that with an electric field meter.
Okay. Should we measure with these other 2 meters before we turn on these lights?
Yeah, we'll measure the body voltage, and we'll also measure the flicker rate of the lights.
Okay. All right, let's do it. Okay, so you brought in a few new little pieces of equipment here because we're going to be doing some lighting measurements of these Juve photobiomodulation lights I use for collagen and testosterone, and I flip them on at night instead of the main lights in my office to give me a little bit of red light while I'm working. So we're going to see what happens when I turn on all this stuff. And what else are we measuring here, Brian?
We're going to be measuring the flicker rate of the lights, and also the electric field body voltage and the magnetic fields coming off here. So we want this workspace to be as clean as possible, and we want these healing devices to be as effective as possible. So in order to do that, there's a few suggestions I can make to clean up the area, but we got to find out what we're working against here first.
Okay. So as you're going, just walk me. You can talk while you're doing it and fill people in on what you're measuring here. So you got a big red device. This is a new one. We didn't talk about this device.
Yeah, and this is just a multimeter that I've got hooked up to the ground and set on a voltage setting.
And you're holding it in your hand. You're measuring your body's voltage.
Yeah, I'm measuring my body's voltage. So this is just an alternative way to measure body voltage than the NF digit meter, the EM field probe.
Okay.
This is the way that most building biologists would measure, and right now I'm getting about 1,800 millivolts.
Is that a lot?
That's a lot. We want it to be around 15 millivolts.
What in here would be generating that?
All of the electricity in the walls, the wires that are plugged, anything that's plugged into the walls is bringing voltage onto the body.
And it's at 1.8, and what would you like to see it at?
I'd like to see it, in a workspace. I'd like to see it around 20 or lower in the bedtime areas.
Oh, wait, but mine is 1 something.
Yours is 1,000.
Oh, 1,000 something.
900 and
oh. Now what happens if I unplug just like the entire power bar, feeding everything?
Yep, brought it down to 400.
I cut it in half. Holy cow. Wow, so just the simple act of having all this crap plugged in while I'm working is creating a huge amount of voltage, even though it's all plugged into a dirty electricity filter and it's like a low EMF power bar, I'm still getting a ton.
Yeah.
How much in the average office are people getting? Like, am I still okay, or like is this still a lot?
Well, it's still a lot. I mean, there's people that it can have anything from 1,500 to maybe even 40,000.
Wow.
Depending on what they have plugged in.
Now, why are you saying 20 is what you want? You just
That's what we ideally you want around 10 or below when you're sleeping. And now when you're awake, your body's in a more sympathetic state, and and your shields are up, so to speak. So
now
it
just dropped way down. Why did it drop down?
Well, it's still up. I just changed it because when it goes up too high,
oh, I see.
You have to switch it to a different
Holy cow.
measurement.
This is concern. What can I do about this?
So this is where you would use grounding technology to help you out. And
okay.
not something where I recommend using grounding technology very different from the way a lot of these companies sell you.
Okay.
So you should use grounding technology as a barrier between you and the electric fields. You shouldn't use it as a place where you're measuring your body voltage and you're actually standing on a grounding mat.
Okay.
Because that can actually draw voltage.
So it's not as simple
you.
as just like using a grounding mat that I stand on while I'm working during the day.
No.
What kind of grounding technology are you talking about?
I'm talking about making sure all your wires are shielded or grounding all of your electronics properly so that there's no electric fields leaking off of them and onto your body.
Now, aren't they grounded if they're plugged into the wall using that third prong?
The device itself is grounded, but it's not shielded. It's not using that grounding as a barrier.
So how would you shield it?
Shield it, you can ground, like if it's got metal on it, you can ground the metal on the device.
Okay.
Some devices are grounded with the metal, and we'll test the Juve and some of these other things here and just see where the bulk of the voltage is coming from.
Okay.
But, in the future, maybe 20, 30 years from now, my hope would be that this catches on and every single electronic device comes with a shielded cord and the whole device is shielded from electronics, so there's no electronics like voltage that's leaking out of any device.
How easy is it to take something like like a giant external monitor like this and ground it and shield it?
It depends. That's where you have to do a lot of prototyping, a lot of testing, and
So it's not as easy as some little gadget that you buy to ground it and shield it.
no. And I'm working on some products that do that with a colleague of mine, and we're going to be coming out with that probably in the
You're
next
scaring
year
the
or so.
hell out of me, man. What else do we measure? What's next here?
Well, we got the electric field meter here. Next thing we can measure is the magnetic fields, seeing if there's anything concerning here.
Okay, so this is the big yellow device, the NFA 30M, that measures the magnetic fields. Different type of field.
That's looking pretty good here without
That's
anything
good.
on.
About time. Something went right. So there's not a lot of magnetic fields in my office, but there are a lot of
Electric fields.
electric fields in my office, okay?
Yeah. The magnetic fields are just something where you want to keep distance from them, and as long as you're outside of the field, just like a little magnet, you take two little magnets, you put them together, you can feel where the field is. You want to stay out of that field.
Now what's that device?
Okay, this is a flicker meter. So I think I'm actually detecting.
So that'll detect the flicker from certain lights.
Yeah.
Okay, and what do you want that device to be at?
You want it to not. Basically, this device is based on sound. You don't want to hear that type of sound. You want to hear. Like let's step outside real quick. I'll show you what the sun sounds like.
Okay. All right, so we're going to step out the doors of my office outside because we got this big buzz. Now, I do have the lights on in my office. I've got these lighting science biological LED bulbs. But let's step out in the sunshine. Okay. We're out in the sun now, and we've got... I'm holding the microphone up to the speaker. Okay, now let's walk back in the office. That was pretty much nothing out in the sun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like just a hissing sound.
Okay. All right, so when we walk back into the office here, automatically. Now, what if I flip off the lights? When I flip off the lights, this is what it sounds like. Almost nothing. Yeah. So these lights are producing what? A lot of
They're
flicker?
producing a lot of flicker.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like more than the average light would?
That's a lot.
That's a lot?
Yeah.
Okay. So these lighting science awake and alert bulbs, these so-called biological LED bulbs, they still produce a lot of flicker.
Yeah, they produce a lot of flicker, and the sun doesn't flicker, so it's if you're looking to imitate your ancestors, you really want a device that doesn't have that flicker.
What would be a bulb that doesn't have that flicker?
Any incandescent bulb.
Incandescent bulb. Do you get more electrical pollution from an incandescent bulb versus a biological LED bulb? Like, is there a trade-off?
No, you actually get less.
So an incandescent bulb would be the type of bulb I'd want to get.
Yeah, incandescent bulbs are based off of heat and light, just like the sun is heat and light.
Okay.
And so you get that in that combination, and we're on AC electricity, which means alternating currents. So there's 60 cycles per second, 120 per second that are going. So that's basically flickering 120 times because LED goes on and off. But because an incandescent bulb doesn't just go on and off, it's actually based off of heat, so it's glowing with this heat. It doesn't have the chance to die off all the way.
Will my office become like a giant sauna if I put a bunch of incandescent bulbs in here?
No, I don't think so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, what about these Juve lights? Should we measure the flicker on these too? Or do you know that they're going to flicker? I guess we can find out. So should I turn off these other lights, then turn on the Juve lights?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right, so my normal lights are off. Now I'm going to flip on the Juve lights. A little less flicker, but still flicker, huh?
Yeah.
Now, why would people care about flicker?
Flickering, it stimulates that sympathetic response.
Okay.
And so, it can, people that have neurological issues, tendency toward epilepsy, they have flashing lights and everything. it can cause some neurological episodes,
So my office is like a giant video game, basically.
like a disco.
Yeah, like a giant disco video game. I don't know, man. Maybe being sympathetic is keeping me active, keeping me awake and alert during the day. All right, flip these guys off. Boom. And what do we measure next?
Well, let's check out the electric field voltage when you have the...
Okay, see what happens to my electric field voltage when I flip these Juves on?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. One's on behind you, one's on in front of you.
Okay, so there's not much change with that.
Okay, so they're not producing a lot of electric field voltage, just a lot of flicker.
Yeah, the electric field voltage you're being exposed to is coming from other sources that are around you.
Okay, got it.
Mitigate.
By the way, what if I'm not staring at the lights? I got these lights overhead. What if I'm not looking at them? I mean, is it as much of an issue compared to like a computer monitor screen, for example?
Well, because you have light receptors in your skin,
Oh yeah.
I would...
You got photoreceptors all over your whole body.
Yeah.
Damn you, Brian. Okay. All right. So we know the Juves aren't producing a lot of voltage, at least. That's good.
Yeah.
Anything else we should measure in here? There's a lot of stuff, I realize. Okay, so this is the spy. This is where we find if the Russians are spying on me.
Yes.
Okay, so now we got the spy meter. Looks for bugs. Wouldn't that be crazy if we found a bug in my office? Somebody's spying on me. Maybe I've got like competitors in the health podcasting industry who want to know all my podcasting secrets.
I'm not getting anything here.
Now, what's this one? I mean, seriously, we're not looking for bugs, right? What are we looking for?
We're just seeing if there's anything that's Bluetooth activated
Oh,
that you weren't aware of.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
There's so many houses I go in and people aren't even aware that something's giving
Right,
off a
freaking
signal.
Alexa and smart appliances.
Yeah,
and all that
Apple
stuff.
TVs, all kinds
Yep.
of stuff.
Yeah, no,
you
we
know.
don't have a lot of that stuff. So it's really not picking up any of the Bluetooth signals. Because I don't think anything in here has Bluetooth. Or Wi-Fi. Will that pick up Wi-Fi also?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no hidden Wi-Fi or Bluetooth generators in the office.
No, not that.
That's good to know. Good. Such a good boy. Did something right. All right. Well, that makes me feel good. So far, I need to paint my entire office with Geovital paint. I need to replace my bulbs with incandescent bulbs. I need to paint the gym with the special magical paint. Now, what are you holding up now?
Well, I'm using that spy meter with an attachment that actually measures the body. So you can kind of see how before, when I'm not using my body as an antenna, I wasn't picking up anything. But then when I use my body as an antenna, I'm getting a signal in the 850 megahertz range here.
Is that a lot?
And the GSM 900 range. So I'm just basically detecting what's out there. And I don't think it's anything that's in the office.
There's
something coming from
basically
outside.
there's something outside or something in the home somewhere that's generating a Bluetooth signal.
Yeah, it's
Which doesn't surprise. I mean, like I know in my office there's not a lot, but I know, for example, like I mentioned, like in the gym, there's that force plate, and that has a. I don't remember if I turned that off today or not, but that would generate a Bluetooth signal, right?
Yeah.
That'll be one thing.
Yeah, this one isn't.
It's pretty low.
It's not in the Bluetooth category. Yeah. It's in the CDMA 850 megahertz category.
What the heck is that?
That's a type of cell phone frequency.
Oh, well, I've got two cell phones right here, and my assistant upstairs in the kitchen. Even though mine are in airplane mode, she's got hers up there. Hers might be turned on.
Okay, yeah, that could be it.
Okay.
Or it could be a tower. You know.
Oh yeah, cell phone tower. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. We are going to go to the bedroom soon, but first, Brian is measuring the actual amount of dirty electricity using what's called a Stetzerizer microsurge meter. So what's the consensus as far as the amount of dirty electricity in my office?
Well, it looks like it's pretty low. I mean, we're around 27 GS units, gram Stetzer units, and we want to be around 25 or less. So
considering all the stuff that's in here, it's pretty low.
Yeah. I mean, I'm used to seeing this like either max out or at least be over 200 or 300.
Well, we're standing in the most electrified part of my house, I think. Like this is the room in my house where I have the most devices.
Right. And you said you had a meter there. Is it a green wave?
Yes, these are Greenwave dirty electricity filters that are plugged into my walls here in my office.
Okay, so we can take those out and we can see if it makes this go up.
Okay,
So,
let's do it. So when you unplug, the dirty electricity filter goes up a little bit. If you unplug that one. So we got 2 of them unplugged now. Oh, wow, that went up. So these dirty electricity filters, they're actually doing a good job.
yeah, they're working.
That makes me feel good. Okay, good. Because I got a whole bunch more upstairs, and there are certain things in my house that aren't plugged into these. So these dirty electricity filters, these Greenwave dirty electricity filters actually work.
Yeah, they're doing
Okay.
what they're supposed to do.
Well, that's good.
You know, and
Didn't
so
get
it's
scammed.
yeah, it's blocking the dirty electricity or filtering out the dirty electricity, but it's still not blocking the voltage.
Right.
So it's like half the problem. Like if you
Right.
consider dirty electricity.
Whereas blocking the voltage would be more like using the paint.
Yeah, using the paint, using the grounded technology as a barrier between your body, and the electric fields.
Right. Okay. Got it. All right. So what do you think? Bedroom?
Yep. Bedroom.
All right. Here we go. Up to the bedroom, baby. Hopefully my wife cleaned it and made the bed, because I'm horrible at that. This could be embarrassing photos over on the website. By the way, again, you guys go to bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. Plenty of links, photos, videos I'm going to have up over there. Okay, we are now in the bedroom. The bed is not made. It looks like we just got out of bed and went surging downstairs. Make our Saturday morning waffles.
Gluten-free waffles.
Gluten-free waffles, baby. Actually, all I've had today is a cup of coffee. No waffles for me yet. Gonna have to paint my waffles with Faraday paint the way this thing's going. All right, so what are we gonna measure first here, Brian?
We're going to measure the electric fields. I'm actually going to just kind of put everything out there.
Okay, so we're just going to measure everything. He's literally just like setting it up as though I'm laying in bed. He's got the NFA 30M milligauss meter there. He's got the one that measures the body voltage. He's got all the devices just sitting on my bed exactly where I would be sleeping for a third of my life.
We're actually going to have you get in the bed.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to lay in bed here. All right. Oh, that's comfortable. Oh, boy.
Okay, so magnetic fields,
Okay.
they look good.
All right, so I'm not getting exposed to a lot of magnetic fields while I'm in bed. That's good. I'm going to take a selfie here for you guys. Uh-oh, I'm hearing noises. Okay.
All right.
Now, you're getting some noise there. What's that?
This is the electric fields.
So this is the electric fields in my bed. That's high, dude. Well, actually, you know what? I don't sleep with that switch over there on. That's always off when I'm sleeping. So why don't you flip that off just so we're simulating exactly what's going on here. Oh, you switched it off and it didn't go down at all.
Nope.
That bothers me.
Yeah. All right,
Okay.
Let's test your body.
Okay.
It's like we did in the sauna here.
It's really high. What's going on, dude? You're freaking me out.
So
I'm
you've
laying
got-
here in bed.
So you've got voltage on the wall. You've got voltage in all these things that are plugged in next to you here. And all that's coming up onto the...
And what if I unplug this? What happens? Boom.
Goes down a little bit.
Okay. So I just unplugged everything, like the essential oil diffuser and what else, like the chili pad, all that stuff. When I plug it back in, it definitely goes up.
Yeah,
okay.
let's keep it unplugged and actually test the
Okay.
body.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So we unplugged everything there.
Okay. So everything's unplugged. There's like nothing with everything unplugged. Except my body. But my body was producing voltage when we were downstairs too.
Yeah, but which shouldn't be.
Really?
Yeah, it should be 0. Like if I measure you and we're grounded outside with this,
Yeah?
you'll be 0.
Think so? We'll find out. Well, we got to remember to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going on while I'm lying here in bed? What would be causing my body voltage to be so high?
The electricity in the walls.
Actually, I'm gonna drop my phone. Okay, go ahead. Measure me now. Damn it. Okay.
All right, so we'll just find out where it's coming from.
Okay. So now he's just like wandering around my bedroom like a detective. He's measuring everything. He's seeing where this is coming from. He's kind of like holding it up against all the walls. So there's some kind of voltage that's like passing through the walls here in the bedroom. Oh, you think it's those lighting fixtures? So now we're measuring my actual voltage meters. I'm laying in bed. It's pretty high. What's this indicate?
Yeah, this indicates that there's radio, television, cell phone towers around that are basically using your body as an antenna. So they're all blasting in here, and your body's being exposed to this.
So this would also be an issue where I would need to paint the bedroom as well to keep a lot of these issues from coming through, and then have like, if I were sleeping at night, I theoretically want these special curtains for the windows.
Yeah, so you need to paint the bedroom in basically 2 layers of the shielding paint with a grounding tape smashed between the 2 layers of paint.
What color is this paint? I mean, can you get it in the same color that our bedroom is right now?
Well, what you do is you paint the walls first, and then you do whatever color you want over it, because paint is actually black.
It was a big project.
It's a black shielding paint. It's made of carbon and graphite.
Hey, Jessa, do you want our whole room to be black? Yeah, she's cool with that. Sounds sexy. Wow, amazing. Okay, so even laying in bed, everything off in the bedroom, I'm still picking up these crazy signals.
Yeah.
Wow. This is scary. All right, so now we've come down from the bedroom, and we're going to measure something called geopathic stressors. Is that the correct term, geopathic stressors?
Yes.
Okay. So what's this one going to do?
So geopathic stress is essentially radiation that's coming up from the Earth.
Okay.
And so the Earth has a magnetic field, has a north pole and a south pole. And then, that has magnetic field lines. And they come out. And there's 2 different doctors that discovered there's these grid lines that correspond with the magnetic field of the Earth, Dr. Hartman and Dr. Curry. And these lines are about every 12 to 15 feet all around the Earth. And the Hartman lines go north, south, east, west, every 12 to 15 feet. The Curry lines go northwest to southeast and southwest to northeast. And they're about every 12 to 15 feet apart too. So they're stacked on top of one another all around the Earth.
Wow.
And then there's, that's just...
They're natural?
They're natural. They're everywhere. But what they found over in Europe was that wherever these lines cross, if they're over the bed and you're sleeping over one of these crossing points, there's a high correlation with cancer. And so,
No kidding.
what I've found is that there's different studies that they've done, and they've shown that different animals seek that type of radiation, and other animals avoid it. And so dogs avoid it, whereas cats seek it.
Okay, I know people are going to want. So I see you have a manual here. Is this information? Is there like some studies or some kind of literature people could read related to geopathic stressors and certain animals getting cancers and certain animals not?
Yeah, there's different studies that you can look up online if you just search for geopathic stress.
Okay.
There's some credible sources and there's some that aren't as credible. The place that I get my information is from Geovital Academy, and they're that naturopathic clinic in Austria.
What's the name of this manual you're holding?
This is actually one of the training manuals that they use
Let me see the title.
for their intro.
Introduction to the Basics of Building Geobiology. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so we have these grid lines all over the Earth, and then we also have other types of energy from geologic activity that come up from the Earth. So there's water veins, there's underground water currents that go under the ground, and that causes, when that water is under extreme pressure, it creates this battery-like effect where there's this energy that's coming up from the Earth, and it's more intense in some areas. Same thing when there's a fault line, or there's this phenomena called ground mixing when the Earth is kind of curling up on itself and different layers of metal and minerals are mixing together.
So how do we measure this?
So it can be measured with a geomagnometer.
Okay. Let me guess, you have one of those.
I don't have one of those. They're like a $10,000 to $20,000 instrument.
Slacker.
And I don't have it as part of my arsenal yet. But you can measure it, and then it spits out this graph that basically shows the higher geopathic stress areas. So traditionally, the way that Geovital has taught to measure this is with these copper rods. And these you actually use your body as an instrument. So you have to get plain old copper rods. These
almost look like dowsing rods, like the person used when they came up here and found where my well water was supposed to be.
Yeah. So it's a similar type of way to detect water. Some of the dowsing rods have the little cylinder on them, and it creates an insulator between your body.
Okay.
You actually want the type that have the wire, just a straight wire that's like in an L shape, because that way it's got more contact with your body and it's more sensitive to the different types of geopathic stressors that are around.
Okay.
So whenever I go over one of the geopathic stress lines, either a fault line, underground water line, or a Hartman or Curry line, one of those grid lines, then the polarity in my hands changes from positive to negative, and these wires will either attract to one another or they'll go apart from one another.
Got it. This is exactly how my well, they called a well dowser. This is exactly how, and it was cool. They found exactly where we're supposed to dig my well based on this.
That's cool. So basically, just hold them here. I'm not thumbing it. I'm not influencing these rods at all.
They're just moving around all on their own.
And I just walk.
It's crazy. So you're walking around my house. This is pretty cool. I'm going to get a photo of this so people can see what this looks like. Again, you guys go to bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. I'm going to put a photo of Brian walking around my house with these freaking little rods. So you're finding geopathic stressors in my actual house.
Yeah.
Okay. So when they get closer to each other, that means it's a geopathic stress?
Yeah, that means I'm walking over an area that has geopathic stress there. So I don't know what it is at this point.
Okay.
I just know that it's there. Okay, and then we have this mat that we use. So Geovital designed these mats that have these rings in them that actually help deflect the geopathic stress.
Okay.
So you put this down. This is a daytime mat. It covers a 40-foot circumference.
Okay.
Area.
This would be like something someone would use as a flooring on their house or on their bed?
Well, you just put it down as long as it doesn't have any metal above it.
Okay.
Then it will shield and block out the effect that geopathic stress has on the body.
Okay.
So my body won't be able to detect it anymore with that down. So I hold them the same way.
Now, as soon as you hit a geopathic stress, those things are going to get closer together.
Yeah, but with the mat down, I'm not detecting.
But the mat's not produced. So this single mat, this is crazy. So everywhere you're walking in my house where those things were getting closer together, with this single tiny mat, like the size of a couple of shoes on the ground, it's actually blocking all of this geopathic stress?
Right.
So you would just drop this in the corner of a room?
Because it covers a 40-foot circumference, so you're looking for a place in the daytime area. This will let through a little bit of geopathic stress because you need sun stimulation during the day.
Mm-hmm.
Our ancestors used to walk through these lines. When they're hunting, they're running. And so the faster you run through the grid lines, the more stimulated your nervous system is. And so it's like one more way that our body is in tune with the earth.
Wow.
When we're walking slower, as we get tired, we go through these lines less, we're less stimulated, and then we land in a place where there's hopefully no geopathic stress.
So this would be like when people refer to certain areas of the planet having more energy or being more spiritually charged or being more, in some cases, sacred. They would probably be areas where we have a higher amount of this geopathic radiation.
Yeah, that very well can be. And
Interesting.
One thing that I've heard is that, I don't know if this is verified or not, I haven't tested it myself, but I've heard that like places where they've built temples are actually high geopathic stress areas, like over in Greek and the Roman Empire.
Interesting. I'm open-minded to this stuff. I'm really wanting to look at some of this research on this Geovital stuff. Interesting. So you can send that to me. I could put that in the show notes for people to check out. Sweet. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Okay. So we're back up in the bedroom now. You got a compass on my bed.
Yep. Okay. So I use the compass for multiple reasons. First, I have to find north and south to find out which direction these lines are going for the geopathic stress lines. But also, when you put a compass on a bed, often it will shift if there's metal in the mattress. No, I don't think this is a metal mattress.
No, there's no springs or anything in the mattress. This one's this is an IntelliBed, it's called.
Oh, okay.
It uses like a gel matrix.
So
it can be firm and soft all at the same time.
Let's check that. See if there is any metal.
So that's just like a metal detector that
Yeah,
you're
metal
you're
detector here.
scraping over the bed. Okay, that's good. No false advertising. Oh, something was metal right there. Is there something metal like underneath the sheet? It's kind of weird.
Let's see.
Maybe it's picking up the compass. Does the compass have any metal on it? Huh. It's kind of weird. You know what it could be is sometimes things fall through the cracks on this, because there's cracks on the mattress.
Oh, yeah.
So it's possible that underneath there's some metal. Well, it's picking up metal on the actual mattress, huh?
Yeah.
What would that be? Like a
Actually,
lining?
I think the IntelliBed has some.
Yeah, maybe it does have.
springs in it.
Okay. You know what? It might. The IntelliBed, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm mistaken. The IntelliBed does have springs in it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it's picking up. Okay.
So let's just see if there's any.
Gotta get my bed straight. Got so many different mattresses in my house.
Okay. So we do have an issue here.
What's the issue?
So when I push down into the springs,
Uh-huh.
see how that shifts?
Yeah? The compass shifts.
The compass shifts.
What's that mean?
That means the springs are actually magnetized.
Okay. Are all springs magnetized?
No,
But these springs are magnetized.
these ones are magnetized.
Interesting. Do you think that's why you were picking up a high frequency on my body when I was laying in the bed?
That probably isn't the reason. It's
Okay.
but it could have amplified the high frequency.
Okay.
Okay, so there's actually a pretty large magnetic field coming off the bed right now.
Is that always damaging, or is that just a magnetic field? Because, like, the Earth produces a magnetic field, right?
Right, but it's a certain frequency, whereas these are kind of an innocuous random frequency. You know, sometimes they use magnets for healing purposes, like the static magnets that you get, like bracelets and things like that. So that would be the same type as this, but those are made to be a certain way, whereas
Right.
these springs are just random. And so the magnetic field on the bed is really kind of like just very random.
Wow. Interesting. So, like, right where my head is, there's a bunch of magnetic fields being produced by the springs in the mattress, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
And you're saying that would be damaging to my body. And there's proof that that could be damaging to the body.
Yeah, that's one of the markers that Geovital talks about in their training is that you can't be sleeping on any kind of material that has metal in it. And there's 3 reasons. Because of this, for this reason, that the springs could be magnetized. But then also, the springs are a conduit for voltage to come up to the body. You know, metal, electricity goes easy through the metal right up to the body. And also the metal springs can act as an antenna for the high frequency radiation. So if I took my high frequency meter and put it right up to the metal springs and contacted them, there would be high frequency radiation on those springs that's resonating.
And there's not like, there's no kind of like a topper I could put on my mattress to mitigate this effect.
You could wrap it in a Faraday cage, so there's nothing resonating with it.
Easy.
But if you're in a shielded
And
room,
then I would still get the comfort of the mattress, and I would still be able to block that.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. What were you saying before I interrupted you?
Oh, I was going to say the issue is that, if you have a shielded room, then you don't have the high frequency phenomena anymore. You don't have the electric field phenomena anymore. But you'd still have the magnetized springs. And also the geopathic stress solution is these mats that you put under the bed, and those can't have any metal above them for them to work properly.
Okay.
So you can't have any metal whatsoever in the mattress for those geopathic stress.
Wow, you're blowing my mind, dude. Okay. What else do we measure here in the bedroom? Or is that kind of the main Geovital measurement that we do on the bed?
Oh, we're gonna map out the lines.
Oh, we got to map out the actual lines. Okay. Okay, so what are you doing now here with all these crazy devices you have laid out on the bed? It's like a bunch of rulers.
Yeah, so basically I'm going around the bed and I'm detecting where the different geopathic stress lines are, if there's any water that's flowing underground, creating energy that's coming up right where you're sleeping. And so we map this out and we find out if there's any health correlations with any certain part of your body, any ailments or complaints that you have, or even sleeping problems. And and then we basically measure the strength of that and then correlate that to any issues that you're having with your sleep.
Interesting. Never heard of this stuff before. Okay, geopathic analysis of the bedroom. You got all these crazy rulers laid out on my bed. You've been walking around with this little dowsing technique. What'd you find here?
So what I found was we have some of the grid lines that are on the bed here, but the main concern here is there's a big underground water current that's going right diagonally through the bed. And it's got kind of
You mean like in the ground underneath the bed, underneath the home?
Yeah. So there's an underground water current that's flowing, and it's creating an energy that's coming up right underneath where the bed is. And so that goes up, very, very high into the Earth's atmosphere. So even if you're up on like a really high story building.
Right, we're on the 3rd floor of my home.
Right, yeah. Right now we're on the 3rd floor. Even if you're up in a high rise building in the middle of the city, that geopathic stress still goes up that high. Probably slightly less, the further out you get, but not by a significant amount.
So what are the implications of having that water current underneath my home in the area where my bed's at?
Well, in Geovital's experience at their clinic, they've been doing this since the early 80s and putting in solutions for geopathic stress. They've had correlations to different types of cancers and that have gotten better once you put in solutions, and insomnia, leg cramping, tinnitus, different things like that. A lot of the same
Would that be like the mat that you showed me downstairs? You'd put one of those in the bedroom?
They have special ones for the bed. They can't have any metal above them for them to work. And the ones that are going to the bed, you need one for each person, for each side of the bed.
So I'd have to have a springless mattress and then a mat underneath the bed on each side.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting.
So we got the water vein there, and then we've also got these crossing lines. So there's the Hartmann lines, which are the green rulers, and where the lines are, it's what we call 700 stimulation factor. And that's just some arbitrary system that they came up with to make these measurements. And then where the lines cross, it's 1400. And those over in Europe where they cross are known as cancer crossings because of the high correlation they've had with different types of cancers when they've measured this and compared it to the data in their clinic over there. So we've got one crossing on the left side of the bed, and then one crossing down here at the foot of the bed. And then we got lines going through the middle of the bed here.
What do you do about that?
That's what the mats are for. The mats basically block the radiation
so just
out.
I don't have to move the bed or anything. Mess up the feng shui of the room. I just need to basically get the mats in here and then get the metal out of the bed.
Yeah, and sometimes when I'm doing an assessment, I'll do a room and we'll map it out and we'll see, there's a spot in the room that we could actually move the bed to, and you don't need a mat.
Interesting.
But
wow,
for most people,
my wife's not gonna let me move the bed, dude. It's a whole thought out pattern she has in here. Trust me.
Yeah, I don't think there's a place in here we can move it to that would be good anyway.
This is crazy. Okay, so I'm going to I'll put a photo up at bengreenfieldfitness.com/building biology of all these crazy rulers that Brian has set out. And man, this is so fascinating. You're freaking me out, you're scaring me, and at the same time, I'm intrigued by this stuff.
Well, there's a solution.
Okay.
There's solutions to all these issues.
Right.
So that's the good news.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So we're going to be doing a lot more. I'll be kind of putting a lot of reports in the show notes because there's some stuff Brian's going to do that we won't have a chance to record. But I believe the solar panel is where he's going to be venturing into next. Have you ever done a solar panel before, like a solar panel setup?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. So Brian has just emerged from the dark, deep corners of my garage where the solar panels live. What'd you find, dude?
So the solar panels are creating dirty electricity, but not in the areas where you have those filters, So like on this side of the house where there aren't any of those green wave filters.
The green wave dirty electricity filters.
Right.
Interesting.
And then, when the solar panels are off, they're not producing dirty electricity. So at night, you're not exposed to dirty electricity.
Okay.
But you're still exposed to electricity because there's active breakers
so the whole
on in the house.
conversion of the DC to the AC is not an issue.
No,
with
well,
the solar panels?
it's creating dirty electricity in the house during the daytime, but if you have those filters on throughout the house, that'll mitigate that problem.
Okay, gotcha.
But my whole point about this whole dirty electricity thing is that, yes, dirty electricity is bad, but so is being exposed to voltage and having a voltage and having normal electricity.
Yeah.
So why not just fix the whole issue from the get-go and not be exposed to any electricity? Then whatever's behind the walls, whether it's dirty or clean, it's behind the walls and your body's not being exposed to it.
And when you say not being exposed to it at all, what do you mean?
I mean, like if your body voltage is 0 and there's dirty electricity behind the walls and you have a shielded wall, then you're not being exposed to any of that dirty electricity.
So it comes down to dirty electricity filters. It comes down to things like the shielding paint. It comes down to things like that Geovital mat, underneath areas of geopathic stress, like the bedroom. Those are the type of things that you would do, rather than just saying, I'm going to turn off all the electricity.
Right, yeah. And what I've found is even if you turn off the main breaker in about 1 out of 3 homes, maybe 2 out of 3, it's actually getting higher and higher percentage. But even if you turn off the main breakers, there's still voltage on the person's body when they're sleeping, even if their main breaker's turned off.
And there's also these geopathic stressors.
Right.
As well.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what you guys get to expect next. Brian's going to do a few of the things in the house. He's got his clipboard that he's writing down numbers on. We're going to be doing like a summary audio for you that you'll get to tune into in a second. And over in the show notes at bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology, I'm going to put all the resources you guys need. The dirty filters, Brian's website, all these Geovital resources, some of the meters that he uses if you want to take a deep dive and just get all this stuff yourself and find out if the Russians are spying on you, everything. By the way, are the Russians spying on me in my garage?
Not that I could tell.
Okay, all right. Yeah. Stay out of my garage, Putin. You heard me. All right, more coming in a second, you guys. Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I want to interrupt today's podcast, completely interrupt it, to tell you about bloating and gas, because who doesn't want to talk about that while you're learning about building biology? I've personally had, probably the bane in my side, has been issues with what's called small intestine bacterial overgrowth. A lot of people get this. A lot of people get leaky gut too. And all of this is caused to a great deal, or aggravated to a great extent, by methane-producing archaea bacteria. And the way that you can actually disable this bacteria, put handcuffs on it, is with a polyphenol blend that addresses the bloating, sops up the bloating, but also gets rid of the bacterial issues that causes the gas and the bloating in the first place, because the gas and the bloating leads to constipation. It's this vicious cycle. You can't eat a lot of these foods that you want to eat, especially fiber-containing foods or carbohydrate-rich foods. So what this doctor named Dr. Ken Brown has done, and I'm going to get him on the podcast too so you can learn a little bit more about this, is he's created this polyphenol blend called Atrantil. And what it does is it kills off these methane-producing archaea bacteria, pushes them out of the small bowel, stops the methane, and they use these 3 different herbs that I'll fill you in on when I do the podcast with him. But ultimately, this stuff is very simple to use. You take 2 or 3 of them before you eat any meal that would normally cause you gas and bloating. And I do this now. It completely goes away. It's crazy. They back it with a 100% money-back guarantee, which you don't get with any other prescription or remedy. And you also get a 15% discount. Very simple. You go to lovemytummy.com/Ben. Don't you love that URL? lovemytummy.com/Ben. And this stuff is called Atrantil. This podcast is also brought to you by a company that uses science and data to give you very low rates on life insurance if you're a health-conscious person, because life should be fair, right? You work your butt off staying in shape and eating healthy foods, so you should save on life insurance. That's exactly what Health IQ does for you. They save their customers up to 33%, which is a boatload. 33% is a lot for your monthly life insurance or your yearly life insurance bill, because physically active people have a lower risk of heart disease and cancer and diabetes. They've found that out. They've researched it, and then they go to bat for you. And just like saving money on your car insurance for being a good driver, they save you money on your life insurance for living a health-conscious lifestyle. Lucky you. Pat on your head, way to eat your kale and drop your life insurance policy premiums. And you can learn more and you can get a free quote over at healthiq.com/Ben. That's healthiq.com/Ben. All right, you guys, it's Ben here with Brian. Brian has since departed my home. It is a few weeks later after the assessment that you just heard Brian walking through at my home, and now we have all of the results in. The smoke has cleared. Brian has sent me my complete assessment PDF, and he's going to walk through this in terms of what the biggest things that are affecting the health of my home and my family, the biggest things affecting my sleep are, and then what can be done about it, what some of the low-hanging fruit is, what some of the big ticket items are, what kind of expenses associated with some of these things. And like I mentioned, I believe a little bit earlier, I'm going to put links to everything Brian and I talk about over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. And I'm even going to upload this PDF that Brian created that kind of walks me through everything that I can do to my home. So, Brian, now we are virtual. We're Skyping, dude.
All right. Yeah, let's do this.
All right. So I've got my home EMF inspection report from you. When we walked through my house, we obviously found a few things in terms of my sauna, where my body was getting exposed to some cell tower transmissions and radio waves and kind of being an antenna in there, and what we might be able to do about that. We went into the master bedroom area where you kind of highlighted that it was located over a geothermal stress area. And there were also pretty hefty amounts of radio and cell phone tower signals pouring in through the bedroom walls. We talked about my kids' bedroom and how with their pet dragon lizard lighting and elaborate Christmas tree lights around their bed, their EMF is a little bit high. We talked about the air filter that you disabled in my office, the home security system, the microwave dish that I have on the side of my house for targeted Wi-Fi, and then some of the cell phone towers around my house. So you then sent me this summary. So where's the best place to dive in with the EMF assessment that you sent me?
Well, a lot of the easy stuff that you can look at were just things like that we could disable. So there was the molecule air filter that you have. I have the same one, and it's Wi-Fi enabled. It comes Wi-Fi enabled. So there's a way you can, if you look at the instructions to the machine, to the device, you can actually just disable by following the instructions in the molecule manual, and you just disable it because there's really no reason for there to be Wi-Fi on there. I'm actually not sure why they put Wi-Fi on that.
Yeah, I don't understand sometimes. I mean, a lot of times I think maybe companies kind of do it in hopes that the Internet of Things might be something that it could eventually talk to, or maybe there would be a cell phone app that you can control your molecule with. But yeah, those bastards, they sneak this stuff into everything. So we figured out that these air filters have Wi-Fi and disabled that. That's easy, though. That's not something that I would need to buy Faraday paint for or do any drastic feng shui adjustments, such as moving the bed. My wife, I don't think, is going to get behind for. But anyways, what are a few of the other things?
Yeah, so just looking at your report here, some of the things that were going on was there was a security system that was, anytime you opened a door, it was sending out a ping signal, like 12 pinged Wi-Fi signals. It was like cha 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 cha, and then after it closes, it goes cha 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 cha. So that's something that you can't really do much about either. But you can look for a security system that doesn't have Wi-Fi capabilities. There's still some wired systems that are out there.
You would have to literally hardwire your entire security system into the wall, though, right? Like this would be something you do if you were going to build a house or if you didn't care that you had a bunch of wires hanging around.
Right, yeah. And yours really wasn't that bad. There's some people's that have like motion sensors in their homes. Mm-hmm. And so those ones actually sound a lot like a smart meter on the radio frequency meters that I use. So those, there was one house I did in Seattle, and this woman had cats upstairs, and I was doing an assessment downstairs, and apparently they were like running around setting off the motion detectors, and it was creating this signal, and I was like, where the heck is that coming from? I couldn't figure it out until I started like moving in that room, and every time I moved, the meter would like make this buzzing sound.
Yeah, I mean, I talked to the security folks who installed the security system at my house. I told them we wanted one that was relatively low Wi-Fi. It does have motion sensors, but those are only activated when I'm out of the house, when I'm gone, because obviously if we go to bed and there's motion sensors on, the dog decides to get up and walk around, it's going to set off the alarm. So
Right.
Ultimately, even though it's a relatively low EMF security system, it's still every single time we open the freaking door releasing a signal, huh?
Yeah, and it wouldn't be releasing a signal when you're sleeping unless there's a burglar, which it could, release that signal, and maybe that would wake somebody who's very sensitive up, if that goes
Oh,
off.
you got bigger issues if there's a burglar.
Yeah.
Okay, so the security system that we currently use is one that I will link to in the show notes. If you guys go over to bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology, you can check out basically some of the things that I've done in my house in building it to mitigate EMF. But again, we're trying to go from good to great here. Okay, so security system would be one that I would just need to get a wired security system for, make sure I leave the motion sensors off. But ultimately, it doesn't sound to me like if that's only happening when we open and close the front door, that's a huge issue.
Yeah, it's not that big of an issue. And that's really, the things we're going to get to here real soon is what I think everybody can pretty much take steps to start transitioning out of these things. So we'll kind of move to the bedroom. That's where we like to really concentrate and focus in on, because that's when you're sleeping, and you should be in this parasympathetic state where your brain is detoxing. Actually, when you sleep, your brain shrinks by about 40 to 60% and makes all this intercellular space for all these, this melatonin and these antioxidants to flood the brain and basically pick up all the garbage and sweep it out the cerebral spinal fluid. And then it goes into the lymphatics and sweeps everything out of all your lymphatics through the lymphatic drainage system.
That's where a lot of the lymphatic drainage occurs too. Yeah, relatively newly researched phenomenon, but ultimately, if you've got a lot of wireless in the area where you're sleeping, or a lot of dirty electricity in the area where you're sleeping, I mean, when I'm in my office, when I'm in other places of the house, I'm moving, I'm shaking, I'm all over the place. My body's kind of draining and lymph is fluting, as is moving as it is, and that's not my repair and recovery state. But for the lymph drainage, repair, recovery, and the fact that I'm rooted to one spot when I sleep, as you've already kind of alluded to, the bedroom's pretty important. So what were some of the major takeaways from the bedroom as far as recommendations for the bedroom?
Well, with the bedroom, you want to make sure you're not sleeping on anything metal. Our ancestors never slept on anything conductive with metal or anything like that. And so metal does 4 things that are detrimental. If it's a spring core, I found that like 60 to 80% of the mattresses that have springs in them actually are magnetized. So they have a magnetic field that's detectable. And all you do to detect that is just take a compass and just slide it over your mattress every which way. And if that compass moves by more than 5 degrees, then you know you have an issue. So that's one thing. And it's not really, some magnets are actually used therapeutically, but these magnetic fields tend to be really random, noxious magnetic fields that are just made from the machinery as the springs go through the machinery at the factory where they were manufactured. So it's not a healthy magnetic field.
No, I use an IntelliBed, and it's kind of interesting because when I got that particular mattress, I reached out to them because I was aware that it had springs, and they sent me a couple of videos showing that with EMF testing, the metal inner spring part of it did not attract or accumulate EMFs. And then a couple of my friends who are bloggers, like Katie the Wellness Mama was one. She did an article on it, how she was comfortable with the springs in there, again, due to EMF testing. What'd you do differently that would have made you concerned about the EMFs in that particular mattress?
Well, I'm always checking for various things, and when they say EMF, usually everybody's using this blanket term and they're just testing one type of thing. They do that with saunas. They do that when they're testing EMF on your phone or your bed or whatever they say. These different industries say that they're testing EMF for, and basically they're only testing magnetic fields and alternating current magnetic fields when they talk about EMF. So yeah, the other reasons that you don't want to use metal in your springs is because it actually acts as an antenna for the wireless radiation. And I actually have a way to measure that now that I don't think anybody else really knows about yet. So I just discovered it like a few weeks ago since I did your assessment. So I can actually lay on the bed, and I have a specific type of meter that I lay down on the bed, and it shows the current going through my body when I lay down on a bed with springs in it, and it's higher when I'm laying down on the springs than when I'm up off of the springs.
Interesting. So, can you take a mattress with springs in it like that and put some kind of a cage around it, or some kind of a bedding, or something that would keep the springs from being an issue, like some kind of like a Faraday mattress or something like that, or a Faraday sheet?
It's possible that you could do that. It's something that I would have to test, and we need a prototype and come up with some kind of product that could do that. And it would have to be grounded, because the other issue with the metal in there is that it actually acts as an amplifier or an easy path for the electricity in the walls and the floor to come up to your body, and that creates a high body voltage when you're sleeping. And so that electric field, that voltage gets on your body, and you think about the way that voltage and electricity impacts the body. It's it contracts our muscles. You have those little electrodes that you can put on your muscles, and it will involuntarily contract them. The heart's a muscle, so we shock a heart into rhythm, and it contracts in order to restart a heart. So really, all night long, with this voltage coming onto your body, you're contracting these muscles, you're raising your cortisol, it's lowering your melatonin by default, and that's causing issues with your sleep. And it's really a lot the same as what blue light does to your melatonin. Many in the biohacker community and the ancestral health community are fully on board with using the blue blockers at night after the sun goes down and everything, but we still haven't gotten to the point where we're talking about reducing the Wi-Fi and the electromagnetic radiation when the sun goes down, because your body's really wanting to start to rest and gradually go into this restful state where you can repair and restore. And if we just all of a sudden cut everything off, and we have this EMF that we're not being exposed to anymore, I'd like it to be a more gradual process rather than just shielding the bedroom's definitely where we want to start, but there needs to be this gradual thing. Nothing in nature was ever just so abrupt. The sun goes up slowly and it goes down slowly, and the magnetic field of the moon intensifies over the day, and then it goes back down as it gets further away, and everything is kind of rotating, and the Earth's relationship with the sun and the moon is causing these gradual differences in the natural magnetic fields and the magnetism that we're exposed to. So we have so much abrupt things in our environment today that it's causing the nervous system to have this stress response, and not only our bodies are perceiving it, but the pathogens and the bugs and the microbiome inside of us are perceiving these as stressors too. So like Dr. Klinghardt, I did some training with him, and he talks about how the Lyme spirochetes and the pathogens, the yeast, the fungus, the mold, all of these organisms perceive EMF as a stressor. So when you have that blasting you at night, these organisms go into this stress response, this survival mode, and they start multiplying like crazy in order to survive.
But what if you don't have a lot of wireless in your bedroom? Like, why would the springs be an issue if you've got kill switches in the bedroom and there's not stuff bouncing around in there anyways?
Well, most people also have these cell phone towers and radio towers and television towers. And, a lot of the building biologists out there believe that most of the radiation is coming from inside your home. I completely disagree with that. I think, and I've measured, that most of the radiation is coming from outside the home, from these towers. And if you think about it, it actually makes a whole lot of sense because, a lot of people take their wireless device, their mobile phone or their iPad, and they're at a hotel or living in an apartment building, and they look at all the wireless networks, and it's like a list of like 40 or 50, and they're like, wow, look at all this wireless I'm being exposed to. That's crazy. Well, what if we had a device that actually showed all the radio stations and the television stations and the cell phone towers that were penetrating the room? I think that list would be like 10 times longer.
Yeah, so my mattress is so freaking comfortable, dude. I get an amazing night of sleep on it. Couldn't I just do your recommendation? This kind of leads to the next thing I want to talk to you about anyways in the bedroom, to just paint with this Faraday paint and then put the curtains in my bedroom that are like Faraday curtains. And then if I wanted to make a phone call in my bedroom, I could open the curtains so the signal could get out. But otherwise, just have my bedroom be a Faraday cage and the springs wouldn't be an issue, right?
Yeah, that would take care of most of the issues.
Which I'm thinking about doing anyways, because it sounds like there's like cell phones and radio towers bombarding the room anyways.
Yeah, that's what we found when we were there. So, but it's still, that removes two issues, but the two remaining issues are the magnetic fields from the springs themselves, and then also that the solution we have for geopathic stress that's coming up from the earth in high intensity over some parts of the bed. The mats that we place underneath the bed can't have any metal above them for them to work properly. It disrupts the way that they're deflecting the energy from below.
Okay, before I ask you about these geothermal stressors, because this was something I hadn't run into before, and it kind of intrigued me what you're talking about when it came to geothermal stressors. The springs of the mattress, you say that those are conducting a harmful signal, but couldn't you just say the same thing about any metal at all in the whole bedroom?
Yeah, you could. Anything that's exposed to those frequencies can be measured with the same microvoltage meter that I use to measure the body as an antenna. And so the difference, though, is that you're putting your body in very close proximity to this metal. And so, I've measured with this other meter that I have that shows that there's a rise in the reading when you are close enough. If you're about 3 inches away and you're insulated from it, then there's not an issue. But if you're right up against it, like you are on most mattresses, and it's pushing down and touching those springs, then it becomes an issue and you get a raise in the reading.
The way this mattress is built, the springs are pretty far underneath me. I'm still not convinced I need to replace my amazing mattress.
Yeah, you might not need to. I've done this test only a few weeks, for a few weeks, and there's some like places where I was staying at an Airbnb or whatever, and the frequencies weren't high enough for it to register on the meter. So, but places where people are really high intensity and they know it, they're like in the middle of the inner city or something in a high-rise apartment or condo. I would definitely try to switch out the springs in your mattress for sure.
Okay, got it. Now what about this geothermal stress area?
Yeah, so in the master bedroom we had some underground water currents going across the bed, and so we measured that
like in the ground 3 floors down, literally in the earth underneath my home.
Right. So when there's water that's going through the different layers of the Earth's crust, sometimes it goes through stone, and there's different metals and minerals that can mix together and compress with extreme pressure. And what that does is it creates this magnetic energy that comes up in higher intensity in those areas. And so our ancestors, they used to avoid these things. The Chinese have this tradition of feng shui, and that was rooted in geopathic stress aversion. And then the ancient Greeks and Romans used to avoid this, and they would try not to build on areas of high geopathic stress. They would,
really?
Yeah, they would have like their herds of sheep like graze on land for a year. And at the end of that year, they would dissect the herd, look at their organs, and if their organs were healthy, then they would go ahead and build a house on that land. And if they weren't, they would choose a different spot.
So this is not like a hormetic stressor, like going out in the sunshine or jumping in cold water or even being barefoot outside and subjected to the Earth's natural radiation. You're saying that the Earth can actually have radiation that it produces that's harmful based on the way that water interacts with rocks?
water interacting with rocks, rocks interacting with rocks. Different, fault lines are an issue. If there's other geologic stress in the area from like hundreds and thousands of years of rocks falling and compressing on top of each other, that's an issue too, and that can create the same type of energy. And then all over the earth, there's grid lines where these lines every 12 to 15 feet, there's more intense lines, and the crossing points are double the intensity of where the lines are. So over in Europe, they know those as cancer crossings, where the lines cross, and they've been correlated with cancer over there for a couple hundred years.
Okay, I need you to send me some links to this geothermal stress information, if you have it, that I could put in the show notes over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/building biology, because I want to read up on this a little bit more. My wife's feng shui, by the way, is probably gonna kick the ass of the Chinese feng shui, and that bed is not gonna move. So if she's not gonna move the bed, because the whole bedroom was designed around like the location of the bed, what is another solution?
So another solution is something that Geovital found. That's the naturopathic clinic that I trained with from Austria. And they've been doing this for 35 years, since the early 80s, doing the geopathic stress and the electric field remediation. And they're also the developers of that shielding paint we've been alluding to. But what they found is, over the years, they actually discovered that when you use, they designed these mats with these rings in them that will actually deflect this energy out and kind of create a bubble around the bed. And you can't have any metal above those for them to work properly. But what they found was that when you use two of their standard strength mats underneath one bed and a high strength mat within 20 feet of that, they actually work together to clear out a whole 80-foot circumference. And they verify this with the equipment that they use to measure it. So there's some phenomena that happens where it actually will flush out an entire area. So that they call that level shielding. And so you can actually shield a whole level. And if you have that in place, then you don't necessarily need those mats right under the bed.
But that would only work if I didn't have the springs in the mattress.
Well, you could put them in another area where there's no metal above them, and it would flush out the whole area, and then you could still have your nice, comfortable bed.
But they're these big mats that just like sit on the floor and you trip over them?
They're pretty big. So
Jeez, you couldn't just like put them on the ceiling or something?
No, they have to be on the floor because they need to deflect the energy that's coming up from the ground. So you could make really like a little.
There's no other solution aside from putting these things on the floor.
That's the best solution that's out there. There's other things that people have done historically, like put stakes in the ground at certain spots, and it kind of diverts the energy elsewhere. But the problem with that is that when it rains, the water moves, and so you have to move the stake every time it rains. And so this solution is one where you can just keep the mats in the same location that you're protecting, and no matter what's going on, you're going to be protected as long as you do the regular maintenance, which is just cleaning them once every 3 months.
Okay, I can get on board with the Faraday cage. I might be able to figure out the mats. Will you send me a link to the mats and everything so I could put those in the show notes and kind of look into them myself as far as the size of them and see if I can actually fit them in the bedroom?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
One thing I've done with people in the past was they'll have an area where they might do like yoga or something, and so they've actually hired a carpenter to make like a little platform, and you just put the mats underneath there, and then that
could work. So you've got like a raised area of the bedroom. You kind of put, like, we have a wood floor in our bedroom. We would put the wood over that, and then that could be like just like a little raised area, like a little yoga spot.
Yep.
Huh. Okay. Wow. All right. So the Faraday cage, turning your bedroom into like a Faraday cage, or, you mentioned how the cell phones and the radio towers are crossing into the gym where I spend time in the sauna, where obviously my body is hot and those cell phones and radio towers could cause a little bit of damage. My kid's bedroom, if I just want to do a select few areas of the house, how does it work? How does the painting and the curtains work?
Yeah, so basically when you're thinking about what areas do you want to shield, you're thinking about, okay, what areas are the areas where my body is required to be in a parasympathetic rest and digest state? And so ideally, you have the bulk of your time, 8 hours every night, you can have this ancestral healing therapy if you recreate the ancestral environment in your bedroom. So with the paint, that's where the paint comes in with these bedrooms is, we recommend doing 2 layers of the T98 alpha shielding paint. That's Geovital shielding paint. And I researched a lot of different shielding paints, and that was the only one that I believe is 5G proof, which means that it can block the higher frequencies and the lower frequencies in combination together. And it's also non-toxic. So it's actually a 0 VOC paint. But what you want to do is you want to do 2 layers, and then sandwiched between those 2 layers of paint is the grounding tape. And the grounding tape goes all the way around the perimeter of the room on every wall as a panel. And then you do it on the ceiling, across one length of the ceiling, and then it's tied into the ground of the house. And what that does is it stops the voltage from coming through the walls, so there's not as much voltage coming onto your body when you're sleeping. And then underneath the bed, we usually have some kind of grounding mesh or pad or mat. If someone already has a grounding mat, I'll just have them put it upside down underneath the mattress instead of being in direct contact with it, because the grounding system is connected to the ground wires in your house, and your whole house acts as an antenna for this wireless. So if you're touching the grounding sheet, then you have an issue because you're being exposed to this wireless frequencies when you're grounding and you're connected to the ground in your house. Okay. But as long as you're not touching it, you're fine.
How much does it cost to do like the painting and the curtains, like approximately for say like a bedroom?
Oh, usually a typical 12 by 12 bedroom takes about 10 liters. Everything's in liters because it comes from Europe. But 5 liters is essentially 1.33 gallons. And so when you get an assessment, you get a discount on the paint. They allow us to charge less. If you have a wholesale account with Geovital, then they allow you to charge less if you have an assessment. So it's anywhere, like a typical 12 by 12 room would be anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000, and for just the paint, and then the curtains just kind of depend on how big your windows are, but that could be another $800 to $1,500.
And who does the painting?
I'm working on getting some crews together around the country, but right now, we have do-it-yourself videos, and then when I do an assessment for anybody, I allow them to contact me or their painter or electrician, and I kind of guide them through the process.
Okay, so this is something that I would do like gym, bedroom, kids' bedroom, and the overall cost. I mean, we're looking at a few $1,000s to do this, but then it could be painted over with the normal colors of my home as it is right now and still work?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, got it. So we got the mattress, we have the geothermal pads, we have the painting of some of the bedrooms with the curtains that go along with those. What else? What were some of the other major takeaways? I know that you mentioned, for example, like the corner of the home where I have this little parabolic microwave antenna to give me internet. And I'm doing that instead of satellite because for conversations like we're having right now, there's no lag time, right? Right. And then it's hardwired from there throughout the rest of the house. There's no Wi-Fi. It's all hardwired after it hits that microwave. But how big of an issue is that area on the corner of the house where that microwave feeds in? And if it is an issue, what are your recommendations for that?
Yeah, well, for people who are highly sensitive, that may be like a big issue. For people who are just really trying to optimize their health, I would definitely focus in on those areas we've already talked about. And then if you want to kind of do the full optimization, for that corner area, we could use shielding paint on that corner wall or talk to the company about moving the satellite out a little further and then running cables to the house. So the more distance you get from those emissions, the better off you are and the less that your body's going to be reacting to it. But, it's either get distance or shield against it and then retest.
Okay.
And see how you're doing.
Got it. Okay. How about lighting?
Lighting, yeah. So I think one of the things we tested at your house was the LED lights, and I have this
biological LED. I have blue light producing devices and the gym and in the office. I have low blue lights in the bedrooms, and you measured those.
Yeah. So I have this really cool flicker meter. It's called the OFC-1, and it measures the rate of flickering of any light. And just like we were talking about earlier, how like everything in nature is kind of gradual. There's no like, abrupt changes. Well, that's exactly the opposite of the LED light technology and the CFL, the compact fluorescent light bulbs. So those rely on, the reason that they're energy efficient is because they're not on all the time like an incandescent is. They're turning on and off, and so they're on less time than what an incandescent is. So this flickering effect has been shown in many studies to cause like neurological problems and hormone secretions that shouldn't be happening, and just this neurologic stress that we really don't want when we're trying to just live our lives in this more parasympathetic state. So because it's on alternating current, it's alternating that current on and off, and so it's kind of like a strobe light effect. So that's why a lot of people don't feel very good when they're in their office. They're this office building with fluorescent lighting. Is not only the blue light, it's also this light that's flickering like crazy all the time and stimulating the nervous system in that way. So the incandescent technology actually uses that filament, and it warms up the filament just like a fire. And even though it's on alternating current, the filament never cools down enough to go completely off. It just kind of glows more intense and then kind of, de-intensifies and then gets more intense. So it's this more gradual change. And the really hot incandescent bulbs don't flicker at all because they never get cooled off enough.
So you recommend incandescent bulbs then to replace the bulbs in pretty much every area of the house where I have these LED bulbs.
Yeah. No, one thing I've found that's an exception to that rule is if you have like a really high ceiling and you have like lots of windows that are in the house, especially during the daytime, because this light actually comes in, this natural light, and it will flush out the flicker effect of those bulbs. So they can actually add in some light, and if they're high enough, your body's not responding to it as much, because the further you get away from those, kind of similar to EMF really, the further you get away, the less that you get this flickering effect and this physical response from the body.
Okay, gotcha. I have some areas in my home that are really high ceilings because it's kind of like a barn home, and we've even got some pictures of some of these areas that Brian did this analysis on. If you go to bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology on the EMF assessment there's some pictures. So that makes sense with the lighting. So incandescent lighting, that's another kind of low-hanging fruit for replacement. What are some of the other big issues that you think should be addressed based on this EMF assessment?
We haven't talked fully about the sauna yet. One of the ways that we want to be in a parasympathetic state is when we're detoxing, because detoxification is a parasympathetic process. And so if we can clear out any of the external EMF from impacting and infiltrating your sauna, then you're going to get into this deeper detoxification state when you're in there, and your sauna therapy will be much more effective that way. So we had several things going on in your sauna. I think we had some electric fields and some radio frequency, but your sauna was big enough that the magnetic fields, you were able to kind of get away from those by being in the middle. So that was good.
Okay, but didn't we talk about the fix for that being simply painting the gym, treating the gym the same as the bedroom, right? Using the Faraday painting and Faraday curtains in the gym.
Yeah, exactly. And with these daytime areas, I would say, you don't have to do the full thing unless you really want to do the 2 layers, but one layer should suffice for daytime areas and daytime exposure, especially in your house because it was kind of in the basement and you're lower. So the higher you get, like if your bedrooms are upstairs, you're actually more exposed to the frequencies because the towers are usually hitting you more often. And so if you have a basement or a bottom floor, you're usually going to have a lot lower readings in there from the radio frequencies.
Okay. All right. Got it. So most of this seems pretty straightforward. If you were to do one thing, I would imagine that the recommendation would be to go after the bedroom, right?
Yeah, definitely go after the bedroom. That's where you get the most bang for your buck. And that's where, like, anyone who's done this for any amount of time, you see results when people just shield their bedroom. That's why I decided to name my business Shielded Healing, is because it's the default time when your body is trying to heal. When we get sick, we get tired and we go to sleep. That's the body crying out for, I need to rest, I need to repair, I got some work to do, some maintenance and some, rejuvenation to be had. And so the bedroom, if you just focus on that, every clinician out there that's been doing this for a long time knows that they see the best results when someone shields their bedroom, then they can kind of handle a lot more of this EMF stress during the day. And some people who are very sensitive, they'll also need to be looking at things during the daytime. So there's just little things that are very customized solutions that you need to have for the daytime areas. Like, I actually took a picture of your office desk when I was there, and I was like, I gotta make Ben some recommendations for that, because it's a very customized thing. You got all these awesome biohacking tools and everything, but it's also a lot of electric fields that are around you while you're working. And so there's some ways that I think we can clean that up.
Like what?
And well, a lot of it, we need to put a grounded barrier between you and the electrical cords. That'll stop the electricity, the voltage from coming onto your body.
What's a grounded barrier?
So there's grounding fabric you can get. There's grounded, mesh that you can put and just set your electronics on. And that basically essentially sucks in all the voltage and prevents it from going onto your body while you're working. And that would be something that would drastically reduce your body voltage if you're not being exposed to all these things that are plugged in the wall.
Did you include that in the EMF assessment that you sent over?
Let me see.
I didn't see that in there, but definitely send that link over if it's not in there, so we can include that in the show notes for people.
Yeah, there's just I did include some of the stuff. It was number 5, daytime areas, Ben's office.
Okay, let me see here.
Yeah.
Daytime areas, Ben's office. What page of that EMF assessment is that? I'm looking through here. Bad podcasting, people. Sorry. Scrolling through this PDF. And you guys, this same PDF that Brian and I are looking at is over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. But yeah, any of those kind of recommendations, send over, because I know a lot of people who listen to this show, they also have a lot of things plugged in, under their desk. They're doing these biohacks. And so send that one over, this shielding that you can get for things that are on the floor. But then also, you mentioned that the dirty electricity filters, you actually recommend those as well.
Yeah, and I actually got the pleasure of meeting Dave Stetzer, who was the original designer of the Stetzer filters and the dirty electricity technology. And he kind of convinced me even more that those are a good idea, especially for the daytime areas. So once you tackle the nighttime areas, I think the dirty electricity filters are something that you'd want to definitely include as part of your attack in creating a cleaner EMF environment, especially during
I've always wondered whether or not those things really work, and based on your testing, they actually, to me, that's low hanging fruit. You just plug these little filters in each outlet of the house, right?
Yeah. You have to get a meter to measure and see how low you can get it, and there's like this combination, this protocol that you can use to optimize that, so you don't need as many of the filters as if you just plug them into every single place. Sometimes you don't need that many. So if you plug them close in to where the electrical box is, you put like 3 of them in there, and then it'll drastically reduce things coming into the rest of the house. And then you can you just take the little meter, plug it in, and try to get it below 20, and that's then you're good to go. But yeah, the interesting thing with the dirty electricity, the study that I saw was one that Dave Stetzer and Sam Milhelm did. Sam Milhelm's the author of Dirty Electricity. And what they found was that the dairy cows who were exposed to dirty electricity produced much less milk. Their production went way down compared to cows that were not exposed. They had the filters in, or they had this special Faraday cage lighting system on the lights that were in the dairy area.
Interesting. This is just mind blowing. How many things that I can do to my own home, which is out in the middle of the freaking forest. I just can't imagine all the things that would go on in an urban setting. It's pretty scary. You almost have to move to a pristine Himalayan mountaintop if you really want to optimize your entire biology, and not even optimize, but just not get brain fog and get toxic from all this stuff that we've got littered around our homes now. So it's an uphill battle, man. It kind of makes me want to just like have a bunch of cushions and a fireplace and no internet and a landline, honestly. And maybe I can just sit at home and write books with a pen and a piece of paper.
Yeah, I know. It's, but one thing I always try to communicate to people is they get easily overwhelmed by all this stuff. And there's a bunch of crap out there for EMF remediation. And so I kind of have this idea that, as technology advances, I love technology. And, obviously you do too. We love all this biohacking stuff and ways that we can optimize our bodies and performance and everything. But let's do it smart, in an intelligent way. And, no matter how bad this technology gets, I think that the people that are on our side, on the health and biohacking side, we can like combat it with healthy technologies that we can be installing in people's homes, and we can kind of fight against that as we become more aware, more enlightened, and understand it better. But we have to test it first in order to really understand it and know exactly what to do. And every single assessment I do, I find something different and new, and I'm always coming up with solutions. But we have a pretty specific protocol that has a track record of doing really well with people. Just get that ancestral healing space in the bedroom pinned down and sealed up, and then people are healing from things like leaky gut that they haven't ever been able to heal from. They can finally get off their restore and their gut healing protocols, and their adrenal fatigue is becoming a thing of the past. And like one of the things that Geovital, their big claims to fame is that 70% of people that are on CPAP machines get off of them after installing these solutions.
Wow. I'm very interested. It's obviously an investment, right? This is something that I would look at, like I would plan a year out from now to actually do all the painting and wait until we're out of town for a while to get all of that dialed in, and get the building or the home modification loan to get all this stuff fixed. But honestly, it's something that I'm very much wanting to do if I'm going to live in this home till I die. It just makes sense. So, and honestly, there's a lot here for you guys. I don't expect everybody to put on a tinfoil hat and install the mats underneath their mattress and do anything and everything that you heard about in this episode, but I'm going to definitely be making some changes to my home. And I'll also be posting all of this along with a link to Brian's website where you can contact him. You can work with him. We'll put a link to all of the different things, from the dirty electricity filters to the mats and the pads and the lights and everything, in the show notes for those of you who just want to go start to snatch all this stuff up and modify your home. And that'll be all over at bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. And again, like I hired Brian and paid him to come out and do this. You can hire him and pay him to come out to your place and do this. There are other building biologists kind of scattered around the planet Earth. Is there a good directory of building biologists, Brian?
There's a few different strains, different flavors, I would say. And I'm definitely biased to my own flavor, but there's building biology. Geovital is kind of new kid on the block over here in America, and there's only like under 10 of us here in the United States. And then I'm building a team of consultants that I'm kind of nicknaming the Ancestral Avengers, and we're going to be like going around and putting in all the most optimal solutions for everybody. And we're all health practitioners, so we kind of come at it from that perspective instead of the electrical engineering perspective.
All right, man. Well, you've given me a lot to think about, and I bet you've given everybody listening in a lot to think about. So thank you very much. I think if my wife wants to kick my ass for messing up the feng shui, I'm going to blame you and point at you. So anyways, for those of you listening in, all the show notes are at bengreenfieldfitness.com/buildingbiology. And Brian, thanks for doing all this stuff and sharing all your knowledge with us, man.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
You've been listening to the Ben Greenfield Fitness Podcast. Go to bengreenfieldfitness.com for even more cutting-edge fitness and performance advice.